Well, I had this childhood of not fitting into the school system, feeling like I was different from a very, very early stage. I left school at 15, didn't do any exams. From a young age, I wasn't really necessarily steering towards the army. It didn't feel natural to me. I am highly competitive. If I'm going to do something, I want to be the best at it. There's a lot of similarities between guys who end up in the regiment. I was 22 when I did selection, and I fell over and smashed my head off a rock, and I was really doubting myself at this point. I was thinking, I don't think I'm going to pass this. Passing selection is really when you pass the jungle. I went to B Squadron, boat troop, and I joined it just before it started to go noisy. It was like the perfect storm. Multiple tours. It was a busy time, but it was brilliant. I loved it. And then all of a sudden, I remember just having a change of mind one day. Coaching side of things for me started off when I first opened my gym. I just submersed myself into the coaching world. I had this one day where I just realised I wasn't very happy. This was like when I started the Modern Warrior Project, which was coaching for men over 40 to live better lives, to unlock the best of themselves, achieve lasting transformation. The purpose will find them, but they have to start. It's like a journey of self-mastery, I call it, and that never stops.
Welcome to the Debrief, where this week I have another former member of 22 SAS, badged member, I should say, of 22 SAS. Lindsay Bruce, how are you, buddy? You all right?
Very well, thanks, mate.
Superb. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, no, great to have you. Listen, what we're going to do today is we're going to just have a great old chat, try and get to know you, and get across your story of how you became to be sat here with me on the Debrief. So, take us back, childhood. Where were you born?
I was born in Edinburgh. My dad was forces, so he was in the Royal Highland Fusiliers.
Okay.
I was born in 77 in Edinburgh, so he was still posted there then. He was in the army. And then from the age of about, I think it was about one and a half, we then moved to Fort William, which was where I was brought up in Fort William till the age of 17 when I joined the army.
Oh, really?
So,
lovely place right now, isn't it? Lovely. You used to go skiing there. You got King Ussy and all that down the road, didn't you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not exactly the Alps, but...
Oh, I get excited about that place because I love going up there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you've got places like Aviemore, which is the main place that people used to go. Then Glencoe,
that's
and
the ski resort, isn't it? Sort of like
it was, but then we had Annickmore, which is just in the fringes of Fort William. So that was always like the main ski resort up there, and I've got good memories of skiing up there when I was still at school.
Really? So you brought up happy childhood?
Yeah, I mean, I had a good childhood.
Yeah,
probably a lot of similarities between us. I think there's a lot of similarities between guys who end up in the regiment.
Yeah.
I always say the regiment predominantly recruits from infantry regiments.
Yeah.
Infantry regiments usually recruit from council estates.
Yeah.
So,
so you get...
Most of us are schemmies.
You get the picture. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I know I had a good childhood, though,
What we like at school?
That's probably worth delving into. I mean, school for me was a mixed bag of various facets. I would say that from a general standpoint, as a whole, if I was to sum it up in one sort of equation, I would say I had a bad time at school.
Okay.
I didn't really have. I left school very early, so I left school at 15. Didn't do any exams. Left school with no qualifications.
Yeah, exactly the same story.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one thing that we've probably got in common.
Yeah. But I think for me, I just didn't like the format school was in. It wasn't that I was stupid. Nah. I just couldn't get the format it was in. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to be sat at a desk. I didn't want to be talked to. I want to be out there cutting around doing stuff and achieving. Do you know what I mean? I think
there's not a lot of people that the school system really fits.
No,
I mean, you think strange, about it, it's a one size fits all method. It's a cookie cutting approach to every single human being that enters into that system.
Yeah,
and it is a system. And unfortunately for people like us, it's we're more practical. We like to get out there and do things, and we're good at that. Hence why when we joined the military, we thrive.
Yeah.
And we
my only happy memory of school was the CCF. That was the only happy memory I ever had of school. I enjoyed the CCF. Do you know what I mean? That was it. Did you do anything like that? Did you do cadets or anything like that? Did you?
Yeah, I joined the cadets when I was 13.
Okay.
A couple of years in cadets.
What cadet badge were you?
I was actually Queen's Own Highlanders.
Okay.
Before that, because obviously the Gordons and the Queen's Own amalgamated in 94, I think.
Yeah.
Was the year I joined the army, and then it became the Highlanders. But I remember when I was in cadets, there was all this talk about how we might amalgamate with another battalion. and it was the Queen Zone and the Gordons that amalgamated to form the Highlanders. But yeah, I was in the Queen Zone Cadets because that was my local area.
Yeah.
But then I ended up, because people say, why did you join the Royal Highland Fusiliers? Because that's a Glasgow regiment.
Yeah.
And it's because my dad was in. My two older brothers had joined the Irish.
Did your dad have an influence on you wanting to join the army? Is that where it came from? Your urge?
There's kind of two sides to that. There's a bit of a mixed story with that one. So I'll go into it briefly now. So I don't think I was typically, from a young age, I wasn't really necessarily steering towards the army.
No.
It wasn't something that I saw as something I was always going to do. It didn't feel natural to me from an early age. It did for my brothers. So my brothers were 7 and 9 years older than me, respectively. And they had a lot of time with my dad. My dad spent a lot of time with them when they were young boys, taking them fishing, camping. And they did a lot of stuff with my dad. And I think me being the accident at the end, I was like a late entry accident.
Yeah, just turned up.
I was not planned, right? So, and I found that I didn't find that out till I was about 14. I wasn't actually a plan. They were planned. So anyway, they were green behind the ears. They were always going to go to the army because it was heavily influenced. Yeah. But by the time I got to my adolescence, my teen years, I was doing other things. My dad was in the pub most of the time. My dad was, he had severe alcoholism for most of my childhood. So I guess I didn't really. I was close to my dad, but I didn't really have that time with him, the quality time that my brothers did. I always felt that. So what I've got then is I've got no interest in school. I'm falling behind in all the work. I remember at one point actually in school, to give you an example, I was always very good at art. So I've got a creative mind. It's one of my strengths, I would say, is that the creativity side of my brain is really, really highly functional. But when I was at school, I just didn't want to do any of the normal curriculum. So I remember when I was about 6 years old, one teacher that I had, Mrs. Campbell, she was a lovely woman, and she let me paint. So I was really good at art. So she just says, look, give me some paper, some paints, and all my mates were all jealous because they were having to get on with their schoolwork, and I was doing all this. I painted this picture of this unicorn flying through the sky, and it ended up being in the canteen wall in school.
Really?
I always remember that, yeah. But I remember being I really looked forward to going to school with those days that this lasted, but it was short-lived. But anyway, I had this childhood of not fitting into the school system, feeling like I was different from a very, very early stage. Yeah. And then my two older brothers who are quite different than me at a different stage of life than I was. So I guess when
that's a big gap in it.
It's quite a big gap, yeah.
It's a big gap in age, isn't it?
Yeah, my sister was
they're
between that as
up,
well. So
yeah.
My sister's 4 years older than me, so she's between me and my brothers. So, so then when I got to my teen years, I guess there was a couple of factors here. So in one sense, I felt like I was kind of not as good as my brothers. So I think that by things that my dad used to say, it was like, you'll never make the army, or because he was harder on my brothers. That's because my mum allowed that to happen. When they were younger, they would feel the wrath a lot more. They would be given hidings, and they'd get beat up if they'd done something wrong. Whereas I felt I was kind of protected. My mum, I was the baby, and I think my mum at that point was like, you're not going to do that to him. So she protected me. I get extra protection then. And so I think my dad might have resented the fact that I was growing up with discipline problems from school, being led astray, not really doing well at school, skipping school a lot, spent most of my childhood playing snooker, which I was very good at. I still love snooker now, but that was my misspent youth. And then I guess I wanted to prove, I got to a point where I just thought I wanted to prove that I was good enough, that I could level up and be like my brothers, I suppose. So they always inspired me. I was always really heavily influenced by my brothers and what they did, because they would always, they went to cadets, joined the army. I followed the same path, but if you can imagine this, I didn't really feel at that point that I was really 100% fit for that. I felt like I was almost doing something that was just to prove a point.
Yeah. Got you.
And most people that know me now don't even know that. They just thought I was always army barmy, and that was something I always wanted to do. But the truth behind it is,
you were almost trying to play catch up with your brothers.
Pretty much, yeah. I was trying to compete with them.
Yeah.
and proved that I could be.
They both got into. Were they in the Highlanders? Were they?
So we were all Royal Highland Fusiliers.
Okay.
So we all.
But with the age gap, when you joined, presumably you did go there.
Yeah.
So and did they have rank by the time you got there?
Yeah. So they were, like my one brother, John was a lance corporal or a corporal, and my other brother was between corporal and sergeant. Because when I went to the training depot, my oldest brother was a full screw there. He was a training corporal. Wow. Not with my platoon, but in another platoon.
So even there, you must have felt the sort of like inferiority pinch, as it were. Do you know what I mean?
Felt it all the way through. I felt it all the way through, Phil, until I did selection. That was my sort.
So how was your field army, your green army, whatever you want to call it? How was your experience? What did you? It
was good. I mean, this is the thing. Coming from school where I did really shit.
Yeah.
And I didn't really amount to anything, and I was always told I was stupid, and you know, I was felt like I was stupid at school because I was always in a behaviour card or a support card.
Yeah.
Primary school, I was always in the remedial class. So I was always behind. I was always like not levelling up in most things, but then there were some things that I was exceptionally good at. So I always remember, I look back, my sister gave me a load of school reports. A couple of years ago, I was visiting my sister, and she gave me this bag of stuff, and within that stuff there was these old school reports. And I read through them. I was just laughing because they were all very similar. But I thought, why did no one do anything about this?
Yeah.
During that time, I was this child at school, very vulnerable. You know, I had a lot of shit going on at home and stuff. My mum and dad used to fight like cat and dog. I had a lot of noise around me. I was the youngest child. My oldest brother actually put something to me recently. He says, I think because you were the youngest child, that I was very quiet. I was so quiet as a child. I was such an introvert. I was quiet as a mouse, and I'd sit in a room full of people and not say anything. Right. I think it's because I was just in the corner most of the time, not having a say because I was the youngest in the family. Yeah. So then I always had a lot of noise in my head when it came to sitting in school. I had a lot of distraction internally. I was thinking about a lot. I always remember constantly thinking about a million things at once at school. So I was distracted very easily. Then I would try to distract others. So anyway, school was really not a good experience. Then going into the army, it surprised me in a way because I was into my fitness. That's one of the things I was always confident with, because when I started going to the gym when I was about 14, I found that I got fit pretty quickly and I got strong quite quickly. So I adapted to that and showed a lot of interest in it. So that's all I wanted to do. So when I went to the army, the fitness side of things, the physical side of it, I found like a lot easier than a lot of people.
Plus, and I was
it really is
a youngster, and I thought, I didn't have to worry about it. You know, like when you're in depot, and some people go, "Oh, I've got an 8 mile," and they're stressing about it. I'm not stressing about it because I'm thinking 8 miler. I'll eat that up. Do you
Absolutely,
know what I mean?
and it gives you confidence because you go, "There's something I don't need to worry about."
Yeah.
Whereas when it came to the things, even in basic training, when it came to anything theoretical, with written tests, I used to be sweating like a madman because the only memory I have of doing written stuff at that point was school, which was really bad. So that was the bit that I would struggle with until a bit later on when I realised, you know what, this is something that I'm actually quite good at.
Yeah.
So as you go through your career and then you compete against other people in courses and you might get top student or do exceptionally well in one thing or another, then you realise that actually I'm not stupid, I just wasn't really in the right path.
Yeah, but you've got to have interest in something to do well at it.
You have to, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't excel at anything I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
It's not. Do you know what I mean? It's just because I'm not interested in it.
And I'm still like that. I'm still like that now.
No, you're right. I think, and that's something that I try and say to young people now. Do you know what I mean? Find something you enjoy.
Yeah.
And then try and excel at it.
Yeah.
Don't try and excel at something you don't enjoy because you're never going to have that interest there.
Yeah, and I think this is a belief that people have instilled in them is they've just got to get a job, got to do something that's paying them money.
They're almost told, aren't they? They're almost told. You know, you're going to be doing this. You're going to be doing that. You'll do the other.
Yeah.
So they almost, you know, if you look at young kids. You know, when they're young and you ask them and you go, what do you want to do when they're 2 years old? They go, I want to be an astronaut. By the time they've been through school, they're like, oh, drive a van. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's
what happened to that?
The belief system just starts to deteriorate as you get older.
Yeah. But it's people telling them that they can't achieve. You know, I was told I was going to amount to nothing because I couldn't sit in the classroom.
Yeah.
So I was told I was going to be nothing, I was going to be a waster.
Yeah, and that's the be all and end all. Yeah. At that point, you get told that you must get an education.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to be a doctor, you need to.
Of course you do,
but not everyone wants to be a doctor.
I want to be a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. So I think something has to change at some point, I think.
Yeah. So what year did you get into the Highlanders?
1994. So I joined 94.
So Northern Ireland?
Yeah, I did Northern Ireland, 97, West Belfast. So that was a good time. I mean, I love Belfast.
Yeah, I've just been over there recently, actually.
Yeah. Well, I went back there.
Yeah.
So where we were, where did you serve over there?
Londonderry, Omagh, South Omagh.
Yeah. I only did the one tour.
Fermanagh.
Did the one tour with the jocks and then went over a couple of slingshots and that, like a couple
Yeah.
But me and a couple of my mates went back there, like 20 years on. So we went in 97, served in 97, 6-month tour. And then we went back in 2017.
Wow.
And drove around.
Yeah,
old,
you've got all those walls up now, haven't they?
And it felt really weird.
Yeah, it is.
I always felt it was like the hairs in my back of my neck were standing. You still think you're being dicked and stuff.
Every time I see a black cab,
it's
like
a really, really weird experience,
Yeah, it's cracking.
Yeah, it was brilliant though. I love Belfast. Then Kosovo, 99.
Yeah.
Then shortly after, I actually went, did selection from Kosovo.
So
I left slightly early, went on selection.
So, what did you get any rank out of the Green Army? Were you going up the ranks and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, like full school, yeah.
Okay, all right. So you were
did
doing all right.
Junior breaking and that.
What point did you decide to say, well, I'm going to go at that? I'm going to go at selection.
This is another one. So, week 1 depot, we're getting the brief from the platoon commander, a guy called Ewan Ross, who's good friends with now. Ewan was giving us a brief on all the different factions within the army, and the last one that he put up in the view foils back then.
Yeah.
So view foils, it was like there was a regiment cap badge,
right?
And he said to us, "Is there anyone here that knows who this is?" And for the ones who had watched Hooters Wins, and like, yeah, it's the SAS. Is anyone here? Would anyone here ever aspire to join this regiment? And then me and my pal put our hands up. A guy called Dougie Hepburn, who again I'm still in contact with, thankfully. And me and Dougie put our hands up, and no one else did out of the whole intake, which I thought was bizarre, because I thought it was every young boy's dream who joins the army to join the SAS.
Yeah.
And only 2 of us put our hands up, and I thought it was bizarre. And then I ended up getting in, obviously, and he ended up not having a full career, but he went his path and I went mine, which was obviously to join the regiment. Yeah. So that was kind of the seed that was then planted, because this all came from, although I wasn't typically 100% I'm going to join the army, there were other options that I might have taken, but the army was just something that I thought I had to prove myself in. I wanted a job, I wanted to earn money, and I remember actually my brothers were home and leave from Germany once, and they sold the idea to me, because he says, look, you come out, you get posted to Germany if you join the RHF now, and you get more money, and you get cheap, cars are cheaper, fuel's cheaper, Germany's brilliant, you can travel all around Europe and all this sort of business. And I was like, yeah, it sounds good. So
huge drinking culture in the day.
Huge drinking culture, yeah. Beer was way too cheap. But I mean, so back then it was like, that was sort of like the early ideas of getting in. But then with the regiment, it was something that I thought, if I'm going to join the army, that's what I'd want to eventually get to. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly. And also it was something that if I reached that level, then my dad would be really kind of, 1, proud, 2, I would prove him wrong.
Yeah.
That was the 2 things in my mind. I didn't really tell anyone about the proving him wrong part, because it didn't feel right. But if I'm being honest, it was heavily.
It was a driver, isn't it?
It was a driver.
It's a driver for
and
there
wasn't just my dad. There was other people that I wanted to prove wrong as well.
Mate, I had the whole of the stance mess. Sweepstake on me. What day is he going to come back? Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing, because we had loads of guys that went for selection. They all come back.
Yeah.
No one get in.
And it wasn't uncommon, was it? You'd see guys training for months and months, especially when I was a junior soldier, when I was younger, in my early days as a private, and I'd see these guys who I respected, looked up to and thought, he's a great full screw. And they're failing it, aren't they? They're absolutely failing it.
So you had a really similar experience to me then.
Yeah.
Because we both came from regiments that it wasn't the normal thing to get into the regiment.
No, not really, no. We had a few, people like that. You'll know them. Clayton, you'll know a few of them.
Yeah.
Of course.
Just trip,
but you know the people, didn't you?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then I'm sitting there looking at these people, but we had a lot of guys who failed, like a guy called Colin Cockram. He was as fit as a butcher dog, and all the gear, all the clubber, always had his, you know what I mean? I was like, wow, I want to be like him, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he failed. So I'm thinking to myself, what chance have I got?
That's exactly, I felt exactly the same.
I was always as issued, in the boots, as issued, I had no Gucci kit whatsoever, didn't even have Helly Hansen, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but the thing is, though, I suppose that there's 2 sides of that same coin as well, though, because you've got nothing to lose.
No.
Because it was almost like they had so much built up in their names.
Yeah.
If there was the typical guy from your regiment that was going to go, and then if he fails, if he fails, how can I pass?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not as built up for you. Because I remember, when I was going for selection, I think my oldest brother found out he didn't know. I didn't tell him.
No,
I
you
didn't
say nothing.
I didn't say anything. I just applied for it on the quiet. And I told a few people who I was in the same platoon as, but I was in Kosovo at the time, so I applied for selection. I always remember getting my when you get your joining instructions through, it's got the cat badge at the top. I always remember feeling all fuzzy about that because I was like, oh.
Did you do the pre-selection thing?
Yeah, the briefing course.
Because that was cheeky as well, wasn't it?
That was cheeky,
that was a little beast, wasn't it?
I remember that because you do everything back to back.
That's right. Yeah, you did the BFT, the 2 miler and the 8 miler, but
it's like one straight after the other.
Right,
like last man in, kit on, kit. It's more weight. So the first one's the BFT is obviously just boots.
Then you pick your sack up and you go for a 2 miler.
That's hardcore. I mean, that was
it, you form up into an 8 miler and off you go, don't you?
Yeah, and then
it's a 10 miler. I think it might be even the 10 miler at the end.
You know what? I forget. I think it might be an 8 miler.
Yeah, it might have been. I can't remember.
But they're all. But I always remember it being back to back.
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, that was cheeky.
So it did pay to be a winner because you came in first on the BFT. You got a lot.
You get more rest. I came first, so I came first in the BFT, first in the 2 miler.
I come second on the 2 miler,
but I get more rest.
Yeah.
So yeah, that pays to be a winner.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah.
But I remember that was always when you're in selection, that's always what you hear in it.
Yeah.
Come on, lads, pays to be a winner, and it does. But I remember after doing that course, I was going to go 6 months after that, and it was about I think I had about 6 or 7 weeks before the next selection course. And I remember when I finished the briefing course, I did really well because I hadn't long done junior breaking really like 6 months before that. So
you're keen when you come back.
I was really keen. I was really fit. Yeah. I was training when I was in Kosovo. I was like beasting my guys around and stuff. And you know, any chance we get any chance we got to get a lift back from the ranges or from one of the checkpoints, I'd be like, right, we're going to run back, lads. And they were like hating me at the time because I was training for selection.
Yeah.
And they were like, for fuck's sake. But they got fit as well, obviously. But I was beasting the guys because we had to stay together. I was like, I'm doing my training, you need to come with me. So I'd always run them back from the ranges or back from the checkpoint.
Yeah.
And after I did the briefing course, I thought, 6 months to train. I'm going to come back in the summer course. And then Andy, who was in the recruiting cell at the time, he says, "Oh, see you January." And I was like, "What do you mean? See me when?" Like, he goes, "Land a few weeks' time." And I says to him, I always remember saying to him, "But I don't feel ready yet, staff." And he says, "You're ready now." He goes, "Don't worry about it." I always remember, it was so casual, but he says, "Don't worry." He goes, "Go home, do a little bit of training, don't do too much because you don't want to peak too much." He said, "You're fit enough, naturally." He said, "Just go, the week before you come here, don't do any training whatsoever, just rest. Go in the piss, enjoy yourself, because that's the last chance you're going to get to do it for 6 months." And then I turned up in January, and that was it, you know.
Yeah, I did the same thing. So I suddenly realised getting into December, although I had a bit more of a build up, I suddenly realised in December I'd lost about 1.5 stone. I had nothing left on me, and I'm like, geez, I'm just about to embark on a course which is going to probably knock 2 stone off me.
Yeah, that's the thing.
There's going to be nothing left, and I'll never forget getting there. And it was like these Marines turned up and they were twitching. Their muscles were twitching and that. I was thinking, Jesus Christ, where are you? What are you? You know what I mean? It was bad.
It's crazy. I always remember back to that, and you'd probably be the same. You turn up day one and you do the whole, you're sussing everyone out and you're sizing everyone up.
Everyone's in the naffy, aren't they?
You like huge comparison syndrome.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, who am I? I'm this little little copper from the RHF.
Got all sorts of boots on them and
all the gear.
Loads of clobber and I was just like that.
And all the guys who you think are going to be there at the end are gone in the first.
So
they gone the first week.
These Marines that were twitching with muscles hanging off their eye sockets and that. Do you know what I mean? They all went in the first week. They all broken.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I know.
It's ridiculous.
And then all the guys that you don't even notice, or the guys that are like maybe smoking in the corner who look like nothing, they're there at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't really. Even by the end of the Hills phase, I didn't think I really sort of knew anybody.
Not really. There's too many people.
Disappearing at your basher every 5 minutes. Every time you come back, was an empty bed space.
Yeah. That gives you motivation, doesn't it? Like,
loved it. I'm going to tell you, right, it probably seems so wrong to people who don't understand it. I'd be always having a little chuckle. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it gives you that kind of, I'm still here.
Another one down.
Yeah, another one down.
I mean, the attitude changes slightly when you get to the trees because it's more of a team type thing.
Yeah.
You're in a team.
Yeah.
But actually, if you look at it in a brutal sense, the Hills is every man for himself.
It's a competition.
It is, and it pays to be a winner. And
Yeah,
you're either there at the end of the day on the truck, or you're red card and you're off. And you go
exactly.
home.
Yeah,
That's
and you know that the numbers whittle down. There is only space for so many people. Realistically, statistically, it's always been the same. So you need to make sure you're one of them.
Yeah.
And the more people that leave, that's another.
And that might not even be, you might be on an exceptional course where there's some extremely fit people where normally you might have just scraped through or whatever. But on this one, you're going to get knocked down. So you've got to do the best you can every time you go out.
But I think
you could be getting cold.
I would say you probably agree with this, but I think it is an element to it, very physical, obviously, but that comes from the mindset. It's all in the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about, I mean, I don't know if you'll say, I had a couple of toenails missing. All the skin was gone off my back. At one stage, one of my retinas wouldn't close properly because the wind had hit it so hard. Like, do you know what I mean? I was in an absolute clip.
Yeah, same.
But you have to keep going, don't you? Do you know what I mean? If you're going to worry about a blister on the back of your heel, if that's going to stop you from walking up a hill,
and that's the
difference.
Home,
do you know what I mean?
And there are guys that could physically, they could go further.
Yeah.
I always remember this one particular occasion. I've spoken about this a few times actually on different podcasts, but there was one guy who was like, when you meet in the cookhouse at Sennybridge Camp, and there's loads of people there. Obviously, the whole course is there, like a couple hundred people plus, and you're sussing everyone out. And there was this guy who I always remember, like, he was the guy who I just thought, he's like fucking universal soldier. He was big, he was all muscly and that.
Yeah.
And I think he was like a captain from whatever, I forget what regiment he was, but he just looked like the epitome to me in my mind at the time.
Yeah.
This guy's like, what?
You're already in, mate. You've done it, yeah.
In my mind, I thought I can't compete with that.
Yeah.
So the comparison there of looking at myself, thinking, who am I? That's what they're after, and being really intimidated by that. And then during test week, he got all the way through test week, and during test week, it was in Elan Valley, whichever one it was, Elan 1 or 2. The dam.
Yes.
And there's the jack wagons at the dam, one of the checkpoints. So I was in shit state because my Achilles were giving me jip and loads of blisters, and I was going as fast as I could, but I took a wrong turn. I got a bit lost at one point.
Baby's head grass.
It's just a fun. I remember this one day just having an absolute fucking epic.
Yeah.
It was the worst day in the hills ever because everything was sore. I'd chosen a route that was going through some marshland, fell in a marsh. It was up to my tis.
It's wrapped.
So I was just having a really bad day, and I was approaching the jack wagon, and was in the jack wagon, and this guy who I'd seen in day one was sort of like in front of me, just to my right, and I thought, he doesn't look too well. He was hobbling a little bit, and he was looking tired. And we went to the jack wagon. He got there just before I did, and I was stood waiting for my turn. And I was really doubting myself at this point. I was thinking, I'll keep going, but I don't think I'm going to pass this. And he got to the jack wagon, and I could hear what he was saying. And the first thing he said was VW stuff, and it was like somebody put a rocket up my ass.
Yeah.
I just, for some reason, psychologically at that point, when he gave up, and he was the guy who I thought, this guy is like everything they want, He said that, and I just thought, maybe I'm not that fucking weak after all. Maybe I am good enough. Because I wasn't even considering.
That is pure mindset, though, isn't it?
Yeah, pure mindset.
Because you could have easily gone the other way. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I didn't even consider. Honestly,
it's screaming at you. Jack wagon's like, get on me.
Not one time through the whole selection process did I even consider jacking.
Yeah,
it was one thing that I would always be proud of. But yeah, he jacked, and Robbie's like getting the jack wagon.
Yeah.
And he just, to me, get a fucking move on.
I always had in the back of my mind, you have to carry me off here.
Yeah.
In fact, at one stage I had to go and see the doctor because my eye was so bad it wouldn't close at all. And the doctor said to me, "You're coming off." And I said, "No, I'm not." And this was the day before long drag.
Yeah.
And I goes, "No, I'm not." And he said, "Yes, you are." And he called it was a training.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Remember, and said to me, "Right, you got to take the doctor's advice." I said, "No." I said, "Look, I don't want to. I genuinely can get through this.
Yeah.
And I've got a bit of time before we go to the jungle, and I can do it."
Mm-hmm.
And he sort of like said to the doctor, "Right, I had to sign a thing to say that it was my responsibility."
Yeah.
And off I went. And I'm so glad I did that because it was almost being spoon fed to me.
Yeah.
You're off the course.
These things do you a favour, though.
No, I'm not. No.
It shows the resilience of the guy.
Yeah.
When I was on the fan dance on week one, the Friday of week one, I don't know if you did it on the second day or the Friday.
It was the end of the first week.
Yeah.
I'm not that old.
They lose loads of people, obviously, in the fan
all
dance.
Psychological, because they say to people, stay with the guy. And I remember
fall back.
His Bergen was already up there somewhere. I'm like, how can I catch that?
Yeah.
But you catch him when you come around Windy Gap for the last time, and he's almost stopped, didn't he?
Well, I was with the pack. I stayed with the pack.
Did you really?
Yeah, and then till the first half, as you go down the Windy Gap, and then you go along Roman Road.
Yeah.
I fell over, and smashed my head off a rock and split my head open. So from there, all the way around my eye, there's a small gap there. Then the rest of it went round. It's gone now because my wrinkles hide it now. But I had a scar from I opened up my eye from there all the way around.
Jeez.
And then it got my field dressing on. So I went to the halfway point with one hand like that, holding my FFD on. got to the turnaround point. It was like, do you want a jack? And I was like, no. I says, I just need something to put on my eye. So they went to the ambulance, gave me some steady strips. They fell off within about 2 minutes. And then I remember coming out of the ambulance, and then the rest of the pack they'd already left again. So I was already playing catch up.
They played catch up, yeah.
Didn't have any food. I mean, that was a fucking tough day. And I finished the fan dance, and it was shit weather as well. I always remember running down that last part towards the Story Arms, feeling like I felt delirious. I could hardly fucking focus. I was dizzy as hell. And got to the end, went straight into the Land Rover. Medic took me back to camp, and got my eye all stitched. I got 7 stitches in my eye, and my eye was completely closed. I remember I was in the pub that night on the piss, which with one eye completely fucking shut like this, black and blue. Yeah. But I tell you what, the fact that I did that was massive points for me, because I think the DS looked at that and went, fucking fair play, still here. Yeah. And
it was the same thing with mine. When the doctor said, no, you're not doing it. I said, no, I am.
Yeah, because it's an easy get out.
Of course
it's easy to go back to your battalion and go, I went for selection. Yeah. Didn't get in, but I tried.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
But there are lots of people who do that, aren't there? Do you know what I mean? There certainly was in my day. I think the briefing course now weeds them out a little bit more than what it probably did in our day.
And I think it's even harder now,
Yeah.
Yeah, because my nephew did it, and he said it was like 5 days, when it used to be like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it was only 3, I think. So like
3 days, I think it was. And I think it's 5 days.
Handling, didn't you? A bit of basic nav, and then the fitness test, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
so you enjoyed selection? Did you enjoy it overall?
I did, because I was new. I mean, I was so young. I was 22 when I did selection.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, I was
about
young.
27, I think. So
I think I was the average age, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I was pretty average.
But so I was really young, and I had never been to trees before. So that to me was a learning curve. I thought, if I get to the end of this and I don't get in, I'll have learned a lot, and I'll have improved my soldiering skills. I'll be a better man than when I came here. Yeah. And that was all. I remember one of the guys, a good friend of my brother's, he's ex-A Squadron. I always remember him saying to me, look, don't think of this as more than it is. Just think of it, you're going on a course, like you would do in the Green Army. Yeah. When you go on a course in the Green Army, you don't have the option to go, I want to go home. You don't give you that option, so you just have to stay there. Yeah. But when you're given the choice of going, I want to go now, it's almost like a green light to just pack up your kit and fuck off as soon as you want to when the going gets tough. Yeah. I think that's the difference with selection, is it's completely voluntary, and you can leave. I always say to people,
the volunteer thing, it's on your medals, in brackets, volunteer, SAS volunteer. Yeah. That volunteer word is so important to the regiment.
It really is, yeah.
It really is, because it's you want to be there.
Yeah.
Nobody's picked you. Nobody's said you are going because you're that good. You want to be there. You're a volunteer. You stuck your hand up, and not only that, you were given a load of grief and a load of aggro, and you still volunteered and carried on and got through it. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's massively important to me, that is.
Yeah, putting yourself into that.
Yeah.
That experience to kicks and balls.
Yeah. And, people that were volunteering around, any time, but the ones that were volunteering for me post-2001 when things had gone wrong, you're going straight into a punch-up. Yeah. Right? You're not volunteering. You're not volunteering it's all like, I might get an op, you are going straight to war, do you know what I mean? So, that was, double.
Well, there are guys who you and I both know who served a whole career and didn't really do anything operationally.
There is, yeah.
But for me personally, it was like the perfect storm. Yeah. I was saying this to Sebastian earlier. When I joined it was just before it started to go noisy. Yeah. So I had a very short period of time that was very busy, multiple tours, and it was a lot to fit in a short period of time. So I guess I was quite lucky in that sense. I got a lot of the things that I wanted to do when I went to the regiment, got them all done within a few years, really. Got
the whole thing boxed off.
Yeah. So
you must have done Afghan, Iraq.
Yeah. Different jobs multiple times. It was a busy time, but it was brilliant. I loved it.
So when did you break it to your brothers that you were bad, and what did they say to you?
They were really happy for me. I mean,
good.
I actually still remember the day that, because it's kind of weird and people don't get this. Passing selection is really when you pass the jungle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of like, I do get that.
Because they say this is like the hardcore element left, and you're only halfway through at that point. Yeah. It's like you're 3 months in when you pass the jungle phase. You've still got 3 months to go, but it's all the other bits that make that up. Yeah. And it's all modulated, obviously, but it's kind of a given that there's only one major hurdle after that, which is combat and survival, which is not like the jungle. The pass rate's higher. You've got to do something really wrong to feel that. And
even the interrogation stuff that we did, there's no way. There's no way in my own mind. There's no way in my own mind. Yeah. At that stage, the amount of time and effort you've invested in me now. Well, you're going to beat me up. You're going to make me pregnant. No. So neither of those two are going to happen. So we'll crack on with this, shall we?
I think with the jungle, because the jungle is, you get told, this is the hardest phase of selection.
Absolutely.
If people are going to go, that's when they're going
It's
to go.
soldiering.
Yeah.
Although you say hard, I always said to people, it's monkey see, monkey do, and if monkey can't do, monkey goes home.
Yeah, and not only that, I wouldn't say, again, there's different types of difficult, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's like the hills I thought was hard. Personally, it used to annoy me when people said they found the hills easy.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone finds it easy.
No.
They maybe forget how hard it is, but for me, I found it hard. I'm going to admit that I found it really fucking difficult. The hills. I found the jungle really interesting.
I love the jungle.
Not necessarily hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy,
really,
but
it's harder because the hills are steeper.
It's harder psychologically.
Everything wants you dead.
I think it's the psychological element of that because there's pressure on you.
Yeah.
Because if it's like Big Brother, you've been watched all the time.
The sword of Damocles is permanently over your neck, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You don't know when they're watching. You assume you're being looked at the whole time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure on you, and you can't hide, can you?
You can't hide.
So, if you thought you were going to go in there and bluff it, and I think that's why the course is designed the way it is, isn't it? Because you can't hide.
There is no bluffing it.
Yeah. You're gone.
Yeah.
And you'll more than likely hand yourself in if you're bluffing anyway, won't you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
the pressure gets to most people, I would say, in they either jack, they give up, or they get to the end and they're just not good enough, which is fine. I've got still massive respect for guys who just don't get in because they're not chosen.
I had a very good friend, and he got right to the end of he got to the end, and they were going to keep him, and he stuck his own hand up and said, "It's not for me. I've decided that this isn't the lifestyle that I want."
Which deserves respect in itself.
Absolutely, of course.
Being honest, living your true self,
Yeah.
What's the point otherwise? You're wasting people's time.
Yeah, great guy. And he stayed on, did his full military career, just didn't want to do that.
Yeah, but when you said about what did my brothers say, like I remember calling my brother when I was found out, because you find out when you go back to Hereford. Yeah. They don't tell you.
Well, they did. So they told us.
They
told us in the bashers.
They didn't tell us. You see,
I
think it's because
we had a night on the pop.
Yeah.
And then you got up the next morning, and the clerk was coming around tapping people.
God,
so you literally laid in your scratcher like that with an hangover, hoping your head didn't get touched, because it did.
Right, was that right?
Yeah.
See, I think something must have happened. I think, as far as I can remember, something there'd been an incident.
The plane ride home is horrendous because half the planes failed. And half the planes sat there going like that.
It's awkward.
Do you know what I mean? It's horrendous.
So I think that's why they changed it, because it was creating drama in that sense. I think somebody got pissed off at one of the.
I would have fasted one for you.
Yeah.
Before you know.
Like that. Yeah. So we didn't get. So the plane flight for me was horrendous because I think, I don't know if I've passed. So I was just worried the whole time, going through everything in my mind, going, fucking hell,
it's just horrendous, isn't it?
So you're in your own head.
Have I done enough?
And then got back, and then they got us in the training. It was a bit like an X Factor thing, they get you all in one room, and then they go, right, the following name's going to see the training officer. But then, it's like with the nominal roll gets called out alphabetically. So being my surname being Bruce, mine was always right at the beginning. So as soon as I heard, alphabetically the letter after mine, I knew I wasn't on that list. And then I was looking around the room at the people who had been getting called, and it was all the Biffs. And all the good guys were all still there. I was like, right, I'm in the right half here. I'm in the right group.
The good side of it.
So then they all fucked off, and then the training officer was like, right, you've all passed. It was like, fuck. I called my brother up straight away. I was like, I've passed, and he was like, fucking brilliant, yes. I always remember how happy he was. Both of them were for me. And at that point, then obviously I'd gotten a lot further than anybody else had. So I was like, regardless of what happens from this point on, I've achieved a lot. But then obviously, being the way it is, the format is, you're expected to pass after that. If you can pass the jungle, you should be able to pass the rest of the course. Yeah. So
squadron time.
Great.
Joined the squadron. Busy.
Yeah, I went to B Squadron, boat troop.
I was going to say, I noticed the watch, your B Squadron
watch.
I
got the B Squadron watch.
Yeah, nice. The Elliot Brown.
Great watch,
Yeah, I got my D Squadron one.
Have you got the D Squadron one?
Yeah, the Elliot Brown did one.
Yeah, nice.
But not many blokes bought into that one for some reason.
I don't know why. It's a great watch as well.
Yeah, lovely watch, Really good. We detract. But so B Squadron, straight out on ops or?
No, not straight away. So did a couple of things like the Bosnia thing, and that was still going on at the time.
Yeah, they were quite good fun then.
So
just a little trip over there.
A few little weekend trips away.
Come home again.
Arrest somebody, come back. But so those were like the small tasks. Then some training exercise and stuff. And then the first ops really was the when we went to Afghanistan in 2002. And at that point we got there, and it was like a tented camp in Bagram Airfield. Went back there a year later, and it was like a fucking town.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. I went.
Yeah.
Obviously, I never served there, but I went there as a civvy numerous times. It was huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge, wasn't it?
Yeah, in fact, I think you worked with a pal of mine out there at one point, a guy called
Yeah. I know. Yeah,
he was a good friend of mine, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
I worked with in Iraq.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
When I got out, that was.
Okay.
We worked for CNN. Yeah, great bloke.
Yeah, he did a lot of that TV stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't know if he's still doing it now. If he's retired now.
So, were they hard tours, kinetic tours? Lots going on?
Lots of different things. You know, it's like in the regiment, you've got to kind of adapt to different things. It's like I don't think you ever really get enough time at one thing to be extremely good at it. You've got to use a base level of skills to adapt to do most things. Yeah. But you having to switch fire a lot. So you're having to learn different things at different times, different theatres, different operational theatres, different equipment. You know, you got to be very flexible, haven't you? Very adaptive.
So how many tours did you do? And did you Afghanistan first? You say?
Yeah, but that was in different capacities. So like with the squadron, then it was small team tasks as well. Okay. So I did a lot of the team tasks over there, from the embassy and stuff.
Yeah.
They were brilliant because when the small team tasks in the regiment are the best thing.
Of course they are, because you're away from everybody.
Just like you're away, you do what you want.
Usually got a credit card, and off you go, innit? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, those were good times. So I
used
to love the small team tasks. I did quite a few of them, and they were always mega interesting as well. Yeah. And then Iraq, obviously that was. I remember at one point went straight to Afghanistan. Then from there went straight over to Iraq.
Really?
Without coming home. Yeah.
Wow.
The squadron. Yeah, I went from a team task straight to the squadron in Iraq, and that was the work over there was good fun.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
So it came to an end. You did 6 years. 6 years badged.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to get out?
Combination of a few things. I felt like the way I describe it is like the perfect storm. Having a lot of operational experience in quite a condensed period of time. Yeah. And I guess that made me ask questions about what I really wanted from my future. So I was always going to, when I got badged and when I first joined the squadron, I was always going to stay. And I was like, I had no inclination of leaving. You know, I didn't have any sort of, there wasn't a fragment of my imagination thinking I was going to get out before my time was served. Yeah. 22 years. And then all of a sudden, I remember just having a change of mind one day. I remember exactly where it was. I was actually I think it was in Afghanistan. And I just had this feeling come over me. I thought, you know what? I feel like there's something else I should be doing. I didn't know what it was. It was like, I always trust my gut anyway. And I'm a bit funny like that. I get these little gut feelings and I always tend to listen to them. Yeah. And at that point, it was almost like I knew telepathically that I had to leave. And I don't know how to explain that. It's kind of weird. But I just thought, you know when you know you're making the right decision and you don't have to think about it too much? It was pretty quick as well. I went from not even considering that. It wasn't like I was unhappy for a while. And I always said as well, because there was a few moaning fuckers, let's face it. There was always the moaning fuckers in the squadron. And I used to get really annoyed at people that moaned and I thought, well, if you're not happy,
move on.
Change something.
Yeah. Or do something else.
Ask to get transferred somewhere else, do a different job, or fucking leave. Just don't stay around and moan, because then you're passing that on to other people. So I didn't ever want to be one of those guys. I thought I would rather get out when I enjoyed every single fucking part of my life in the squadron. I loved the squadron. I really did. I loved all the guys. Yeah. It's a fantastic squadron, fantastic fucking experience. And I had a good time. I had a really good time within the squadron. So there was nothing that was bothering me in a way that I thought, I'm sick of this shit. Yeah. I think it was just, I got a feeling that there was something else I had to do, for whatever reason that was. And I also wanted to gain control of my life again. I felt like I was just part of a machine that was being controlled.
Regiment owns you, doesn't it?
It owns you.
Yeah, you
are.
It
does. And that's fine, because it has to. Yeah. And you need to be, that's what you sign up for. But I didn't want that anymore. I wanted to gain more control back in my own life. Yeah,
you wanted control your own destiny to a point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And it took years to find out what I should be doing. Years.
So you get out, straight onto the circuit, I'd guess.
Yeah, well, that was for the money more than anything.
You need dough.
Yeah, I needed money.
Yeah, so, of course, yeah.
Because you don't get paid much in the army, let's face it. Even at the regiment, you get paid shit.
It's a massive misconception. People, must have got loads in the regiment.
The money's shit.
Not at all.
Even at the senior level.
I think even now it's not brilliant, is it?
It's rubbish. Yeah, it's not something you do for the money.
No. But that was always their argument as well, wasn't it? You're a volunteer. Shut up. Do you know what I mean?
And I always disagree with that. I always think the guys in the regiment should be paid more money.
No, I definitely do, and I'd fight for it now if I could. Like, do you know what I mean?
I would still say that.
Yeah,
they deserve more money.
100%. But I think the institutions.
Well, especially when you get politicians sat in Westminster fucking creaming it in, and you guys bursting through doors, risking their lives, being paid shit money whilst they're sat back in the.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, 100%.
This is another real disconnect I have at the moment in this stage of my life, is that I've got a massive problem with all that now. I've got a problem with the way everything is run and why people are doing certain things and why the situation is the way it is in the world right now. And I wouldn't want my son to join the army. I wouldn't want him to.
Yeah, that's right. Because both my sons have. So both my sons.
I've done all that shit, right? And I did that because the army was good to me. It served me well. I met some great people. It gave me a platform to build the rest of my life on. But that was the army. That was the guys who I was involved with at that time. My leaders, my mates. I thank them for that. I don't thank the fucking establishment, even though it's them that it's.
No, you're right. Yeah, my experience from the army has been formed around the people that I met and the people I served with. Yeah, not the army itself. Do you know what I mean? The army didn't make me. The people around me made me.
Absolutely, and it teaches you good values and stuff and discipline, and all these things are really important for life. Yeah. But when it comes to the bigger picture side of things, I've got a problem with it.
Yeah. So right, we won't go down that rabbit hole straight away, right? But we will go into the rabbit hole of you did the circuit bit, built some dough. Didn't you do some celebrity stuff as well?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone you can mention?
Yeah, I mean Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie.
What are they like? Do you know, there's a funny story, right? So Angelina Jolie at one stage was looking for someone to look after her, and I got wind of this, and I had to go on this interview, and I thought it might be with her, but it wasn't. And they made me sit on this sofa, right? And I'm sat on this sofa, and
casting couch.
Yeah. And the guy, can you just look that way? I'll look that way. Right, and I'm like that, right? And she must have decided I was a minger or I was just too fat or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, right, next. Off I come. Never got to speak to anybody. And then I found out Billy was doing it.
Well, Chisel.
Yeah.
You got given that nickname at the time. I remember that was the magazine. Because it was shortly before that I was doing it.
Yeah.
But it was only ever a short-term thing. It was only like a specific thing that was based in India.
Yeah, I'm 100% sure that she was on a video link to that couch and went, not having that idiot.
Yeah, that was one of the. That was a really interesting job. I loved that side of things because it was just different. You know, it's kind of
you see a world that you've probably never seen before in your life, don't you?
And it's a world that you would not want to be. It makes you realise that being famous isn't all that. I wouldn't want to be famous.
No, absolutely. At that level, when you can't go anywhere.
Oh my God, it's just
you can't even go and fill your car up.
You can't do anything.
Yeah,
it's frightening actually. The level of like the saturation of the paparazzi, especially in India, they're exceptionally bad. I mean, it was a nightmare.
There's no controlling factor to that either, is there? You just get mobbed.
Absolutely mobbed, and you can't trust anybody because everyone's been paid off.
Yeah,
you know there are people being paid off, and it's like
they want to know what door you're using, where the car's going, all that sort of. It's a nightmare, isn't it?
It's one of those like who's telling the paparazzi where we're going?
Yeah,
someone in here's you know.
There's a mole.
There's a mole.
There's a mole somewhere,
and the mole's getting paid.
Yeah, absolutely. The mole's getting paid. Yeah,
and I was witness to that.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I couldn't prove it at the time, but I knew that something was going on.
Yeah.
And from the inside, from a guy who used to look after Angelina.
Right, okay. Because some of these people, tour managers and stuff like that, wrap themselves so tight to the client and all that sort of stuff, don't they? Do you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, right, they put a lot of trust. You think how difficult that must be. If it was your family, let's say you're the celebrity and you are a celebrity now anyway, but let's say your family, your wife, your kids, your sole priority is to protect them from the media, from the poison that is out there that's trying to seep into your life. So you're going to do all you can. So when you then hire me, for example, and my job is to protect your family, you and your family.
Yeah,
you have to be able to trust me. Now, how hurtful is it that when you then find out that the guy who's now been working for you for several years, you couldn't trust him from day one?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's shameful. So when it was me, I think when anyone puts trust in me, I assure them they can trust me because it's an honour to be given that trust.
Yeah.
So you'll do everything in your power to make sure they can trust you, and you can live that because that's all about values. It's about basic values. When you're someone who's not doing that and doing the opposite and being a mole or being a rat in some way, that's just like you've got to look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And you know that's the unfortunate side of things. So I did. At the end of the day, there's two ways to think about it. Yes, you decided you want to be famous. You get paid lots and lots of money. This is par for the course.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't think it makes it right. Everyone deserves a level of privacy.
Yeah, they do. No, definitely. 100% they do.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't want to be a Hollywood.
Not at that
star.
level.
Oh, no way. No way. No, it's another level.
No, it's
But it was
incredible.
good work though. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Do a lot of travel on it?
Not massive amounts of travelling. No, just like when I was in India working for them, it was like internal stuff.
Okay.
Go with one of them. Yeah, Brad was like, he one of us would go with him wherever he would go. And that was pretty cool, sitting in a private jet with Brad Pitt, thinking, fucking hell, I'll be watching this guy's movies most of my life.
And you're shouting the private jet.
It's kind of surreal.
Yeah,
it's quite cool.
Pinch yourself.
Yeah, it's
Do you
quite
know
cool.
what I mean?
And I liked him before. I was always a fan of his and his movies, and thankfully, he was a really nice
I looked
bloke.
after Jimmy Page for Led Zeppelin. I remember stood on the back of their comeback tour in 02, and I stood behind him, feet tapping to I'm like,
I bet this is like pinch yourself.
And I'm like that. I turned into fanboy on the stage. I'm like that.
It's brilliant though, but you've almost got it's kind of
crazy.
Because when you're working for someone, you can't be the fan. You've got to be the professional.
You're right.
So you can't be going like, can I have a photograph of you? You work for me. So
but it opens your eyes as well, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah,
it really does. It's a different world.
So there's a lot of different things that I've done that I've really enjoyed, and other things that I've thought were complete shit. But you've been in the circuit for that it's a mixed bag. It's a circus. Yeah, it's a mixed bag of events. But so then after that, obviously, then I opened my first gym. So I went into the gym business, and at the time I was like competitively bodybuilding for quite a long time as well.
Yeah, tell me a bit about that. How did you get into that? Does that something? I mean, you was always definitely fit.
So I was always like, when I was about 14, 15, I was obsessed with muscle mags and stuff. Like like movies, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and all that. The classic. So I was always obsessed with. With muscular physiques. I was like, I want to be like that. And I always remember like when the film Conan came out. It was like Conan the Barbarian. My brother bought me this magazine. I remember this vividly. He took me after school one day to this shop because he was like 9 years older than me. So he was like really good to me as a kid. He'd spend his wages buying me stuff, and he was brilliant. And he spent a lot more time than me and my dad did actually. And so he took me to this shop one day and he bought me this magazine. It was Conan that was in the front of it, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just remember being fucking fixated on this image. I was like, how did he get his arms so big? How can someone be so big? Then I watched The Terminator. Then it was so all these things. So that was like just something that was embedded in my mind. And then when I was about 14, 15, I went to the gym for the first time. Didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I went in and I was by myself, so because none of my mates wanted to go to the gym. I was like the fucking weirdo who wanted to start lifting weights when I was 14. So I would go into this gym, little leisure centre in Fort William, and then I would just pick the guy who looked the best. So I would look for and I would just copy him, and I'd wait till he's finished in one bit, and I'd go and do what he did, and I just mimic what he was doing. Yeah. And eventually, one guy came up to me someday. He says, "You're in here every day." He says, "What are you doing?" And I always remember my nutrition at the time was like, I would finish my 2 hour. I'd be in there for 2 hours, like obsessed, and then I would leave there and I'd buy a little cup of hot chocolate from the vending machine and a Mars bar, right? And that was my post-workout nutrition. And that was like, because it felt right. I was like, I need sugar. Yeah. And this guy said to me one day, he says, you're training too much. He says, you need to be training less, and then you'll build muscle, because it's when you're out the gym, you build the muscle. And so then he gave me some tips and whatnot. So I started going less, which was quite difficult because I liked going so much. And I found out when I started going less, then my muscles started to get bigger. I was getting stronger because I was obviously having time to recover. Yeah. And then I started to read all the magazines and stuff, and I went down a rabbit hole with it. So I was obsessed, and I learned lots about nutrition and training. But it was all very basic stuff. Back then it was quite basic. They didn't have the internet. Thankfully, it was actually fucking easier to get the information because you weren't confused by a million different things.
There's more products about.
Oh my God, it's just...
You know what I mean? So you had eggs and chicken. Do you know what I mean? It may be a powder possibly
still,
to creatine.
Human body's still the same.
Yeah.
Basics work.
Yeah.
But what's happening now is people are doing all the complicated shit, all the frilly parts, and they're forgetting the basics. Not only that, the mobile phone's a distraction. So I was in the gym the other night, and there was this young lad who was on a machine who I was planning going on this machine after him, and I'm watching him, and I'm doing my existing exercise with one machine. I'm like, I'll do that next. And I had done like 3 sets by the time he'd been on his reels, flicking through TikTok or whatever. And I'm like, I feel he said, you can't say anything, but I feel like saying, look, why are you here? You know, what is your purpose for coming to the gym? Do you want to build your muscles up? That's what most young lads want, to have bigger muscles.
Yeah.
You're not going to fucking do it being sat on TikTok.
Well, your thumb's going to get bigger.
Yeah.
That's about it, isn't it?
But it's bizarre. So there was less distractions then. So with the bodybuilding side of things, I joined the army. I was really fit, pretty strong. And then that I didn't pick that back up again probably until about 2001, 2 maybe.
Yeah.
But 2002, I think. So I'd left it for quite a few years because I couldn't, you can't do it. I was boxing a lot in the army and stuff, so that was my fitness. Then the army lifestyle doesn't allow for doing bodybuilding and getting big.
It's routine, and you can't get into routine, can you?
So then when I revisited that back in 2002, the obsession picked back up again. And then by the time I left, I was like, really.
So did you end up with your own gym?
Yeah, so I opened a gym.
Okay.
After I did a couple of years in the circuit when I got out, got some money behind me.
Yeah.
But the plan was always to open a gym.
Okay.
That was always my goal.
That was your calling.
At the time it was, yeah. But at the same time, looking back retrospectively, it had a purpose for what I do now, because it's part of my coaching is obviously like fitness and helping people get fit. And I've got a wealth of knowledge with that now that I built up over a number of years doing competitive bodybuilding and coaching people as well. But also, at the time, it was a bit of a selfish reason, because what did I want to do? I was obsessed with bodybuilding. All I wanted to do was lift weights and be a bodybuilder. So if I had a gym...
Get a job that facilitates me just training 24/7.
It supports my lifestyle, right? And then I realised when I had a business that there's a lot more to this than just opening the doors in the morning. It's a fucking business. You got to make money. Yeah. So then I went through a phase of owning a gym and not actually training myself as much as I wanted to because I was too busy. And if I did do that, business was sacrificed. So it was difficult to get the balance. It wasn't that straightforward. There's a lot of stress because money was always tight with the gym because it's big overheads.
And you can't overcharge people.
You can't. You got to
they'll just go somewhere else now.
You got to get the balance right.
You can get a membership in one of these Go gyms for like 15 quid a month.
Nowadays it's really difficult because they're getting better as well.
Yeah.
What you got to do with a gym these days is that you've got to provide a culture.
Yeah.
You have to be different. You have to give people a reason that is more than the machines are better or the weights are heavier.
That's why things like these calisthenics are probably doing quite well now. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a little bit more. It's different. It's something that people can get.
People
into.
Need
cross training. All the stuff they're doing with it.
CrossFit is so successful because the model that they've built that on, which is community. Yeah. You don't just join a gym. It's an identity that people adapt.
That's right. And then these people are turning up at Tough Mudders and all that sort of stuff, and that's what they're going for, isn't it?
It's genius branding.
So there's purpose.
It's brilliant, and I think it's a great thing. I just think something like CrossFit, you can't help but be impressed with these athletes. They are fucking phenomenal athletes. Yeah. And there's no getting away from that. But where it goes wrong is when Janice, who works down the office, who hasn't got any history of training, goes and joins a gym, and then someone who's maybe not that experienced gets her to do something that she shouldn't be doing, and then she breaks. Yeah, that's the only. But then that can happen anywhere. So anyway, but the whole culture thing is really what you need to build in a gym, and that facilitated my bodybuilding career. And I was pretty successful as a bodybuilder.
Yeah, how did you do?
I did really well. Yeah, I did. I competed about 20 times. I won.
This is a mindset thing where you were getting. I can read this. Well, I'm going to do that, so I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to half do it. I'm going to proper do it.
And I'll admit that I am highly competitive. Yeah, if I'm going to do something, I want to be the best at it. Yeah. I never want to just make up the numbers. So I used to say that to make myself not sound like a show off and be humble. I'd say, it's really the competition's about me. It's about me beating myself. Yeah. The reality was I wanted to win.
I'm chomping at the bit.
And I hated losing. So thankfully most of the time I did win in bodybuilding. Actually, I got quite good at it, and I won like overall championships. Yeah, Mr. Down in Kent, like the Gravesend Classic. I won that a couple of times. Wow. I won the Mr. Hercules twice overall.
There's a lot of people going for these things as well, aren't there?
Top 4 spot in the Mr. Britain twice. Wow. And then lots of other. I won the Mr. Scotland, Mr. Wales. Yeah. Lots of other ones. Yeah, I competed in loads, but I did really well as a bodybuilder, and then eventually did my last show back in 2014. Okay. Because it got to the point where the internet had become quite a thing, Instagram, and it kind of lost the mystique for me. And I'd done it so many times that it became a bit of a routine thing of I didn't really have the fire anymore to compete and win. Yeah. I felt like I'd served my time with that, and
Yeah,
also
done.
the whole thing with drugs and that as well became such a thing. People were taking more drugs. It was all about that, and for me, it was all about the beauty of the physique. It was all about sculpting a body that was people would aspire to be like.
Yeah.
It wasn't about getting fucking ridiculously big and
Yeah.
causing yourself a heart attack. It was about beauty. It was about art.
Yeah. Your
And
creative side coming out again.
Yeah, it's about it's an artistic side. So people go, oh, it's all about ego. It's not actually. It's like a work of art you're building on your body, and that's an interest point. It's focus. It's structure. So it's multifaceted from that side of things. But for me, it gone in a direction that wasn't really what I liked anymore. There was all these different categories being put in. It was all about money, selling tickets. Let's put another category in that gives fucking, anyone a chance of competing. And then we can just say this is like a wellness class.
Yeah.
They all still look amazing, but it kind of detracted from being about bodybuilding, when the men's bodybuilding was the main show, to then it was almost like a bunch of Ken dolls competing for the best smile. And at that point I was like, I'm checking out. So then I've focused on coaching more. I thought, if I'm not going to do that, I want to...
Is that what you're doing now?
Still do that, but that's evolved through the years. So the coaching side of things for me started off when I first opened my gym, and I would help people for free. I would genuinely just coach people for free, do inductions, I would help people out, and everything was for free. And a friend of mine said to me one day, because I was qualified to do personal training and stuff, and they would say, look, why don't you charge money for what you're doing? I was like, I didn't really like asking people for money. I felt bad, I just wanted to help people. He says, you got to charge because people will take it seriously. And I did wonder why some people weren't getting results, because I wasn't really charging them. And so I started to charge a small amount of money, and then that just evolved from there. Then I got some work through some other organisations, which was outsourcing clients and stuff online, when the online thing was just about emails rather than fucking having big fancy programs. And then I guess I just submerged myself into the coaching world, got a couple of really good mentors, learned from them. People like Phil Lerny, who's I'm still involved with now through Human 24, the brand that I'm affiliated with. He was instrumental in my coaching career, because he coached me as a bodybuilder for my last season, my whole last year, and I realised then that there was a lot to learn. So I worked with him, learned a hell of a lot from him, as well as other people like Charles Poliquin and people. He's dead now, but I mean, he was a genius at what he did. And I went down the rabbit hole with the physical side of the coaching, wanted to learn things like proper biomechanics, nutrition, just so that I could master the art of getting people to do what I had done and a bit better, because I kind of like kept things really basic when I was competing. But there were some advances that I then learned and then implemented into my coaching, and then started to get great results with other people competing, and men and women, bikini competitors, bodybuilders, fighters, and then obviously general population people, like people who are either fat, skinny, want to put on muscle, fat, want to lose weight.
Lifestyle change and stuff, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and there was a catalyst for this. So it was all about the physical, practical side of things at that point. Come into the gym, do the reps, eat the food, get the result. But then what kept on coming up was this thought of, there are some people who just don't quite break the mold. They don't break their own mold. So they're stuck in these behavioural patterns that they don't even realise that they're stuck in. And as a coach, I really wanted to tap into that. And it was one client in particular, actually, who was the catalyst for that, because I honestly wanted to fucking slap this guy. I got so annoyed, because for me, I wanted so badly for him to get the result. I wanted him to lose weight. I wanted him to get successful, because not for anything to do with me. It was all about the fulfillment I got from that was when someone says, you've changed my life. You've helped me lose weight. You've helped me feel happier. You've helped me meet my ideal partner because I feel confident in myself. These things are like, give you a really warm, fuzzy feeling. Money aside, all that, it's not about me. It's about that when someone tells you that and it's sincere, that feels amazing. Because it's giving back. And I guess this guy, I couldn't help him, and I kind of failed because I couldn't quite tap into the reasons that was stopping him. And then from that moment on, I became obsessed about finding out why people do the things they do, why people get stuck in certain behavioural patterns, the habit structure of people's lives, where it comes from. And it's always a lot deeper rooted than people think. And so at the same time, concurrently with that, I had this one day where I just realised I wasn't very happy. So on paper, I had a few things that was going on that I think people were thinking, he's doing well, he's happy, his gym's successful, he looks great, because I was bodybuilding at the time, I had a good physique and stuff. And I was actually fucking really unhappy. And I think that's the moment of realization when I started to realize that there was something that was missing in my life from the military, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, I'd lost purpose. I was doing all these things.
I crave purpose all the time.
Oh, mate.
I really do.
I just felt like I didn't know what my purpose was.
Yeah.
And it took me years to find this out, but I knew something was there from the moment when I said that I left the regiment. I knew there was a calling, and I was doing all these different things, and I didn't really feel like I had a grasp on the thing that I really should be doing.
Yeah.
I thought, this is short term. This isn't really got a huge meaning behind it. I didn't really feel like there was a big picture.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really feeling like I was massively pulled towards one thing for a really strong reason. So it all felt a bit shallow. I thought, I'm bodybuilding, what am I even doing? I'm building my physique up, I'm covering myself in fake tan and baby oil and standing flexing my muscles on stage. What's all that about? Stood there in a pair of budgie smugglers. I'm belittling that, but at the time it was I enjoyed. There was a part of that was great, right? But at the same time, I was like, this isn't making me happy. This is a distraction.
Yeah,
it's filling a void, and I was just lost.
Yeah.
I was really lost. My relationship at the time was kind of on tenterhooks because of me, because I must have been a nightmare to live with, because I was very selfish, because I was just doing bodybuilding, I was running the gym, I didn't really make time for the relationship, and you know, I guess, you know, that was all on me, and it's because I wasn't really happy with myself, I don't think, regardless how I looked, regardless how what I'd done in my life, how I'd been in the fucking SAS, and this is all just like, it's all just things in your CV, right? But it's about what's inside. And when I realised this one day that I was really unhappy, I thought, I need to do something about this. I need to dig within. This isn't anything nothing outside's going to give me the satisfaction. I need to find out what the fuck has got to be unpacked.
Yeah.
And that's still going on now. I mean, that was 10 years ago, and it's still going on, and it will always be going on. I'm happy with that now. But at that point, when I realised that, I started looking into like personal development books, and fucking Tony Robbins, and you know, Jim Rohn, and all the old classics, Bob Proctor, and I started just going down a rabbit hole with mindset and personal development and finding out things about basic human behaviour and neuroscience, and I became a bit obsessed with it all, and I'm still obsessed with it now. But I guess that was the start of what I do now back then. And
so, what are you up to now? What's your effort now? What's your concentration? What
right. So, I'm not going to go too deep with this, right? But
right.
This is becoming more. It's developing more magnitude as life goes on, and it's almost like I started something a few years ago in lockdown. This was like when I started the Modern Warrior Project, which was coaching for men over 40 to live better lives. You know, it's about empowering men to unlock the best of themselves and achieve lasting transformation. That's kind of what I do. It's about giving people purpose, because I've lived that and got to the point where I felt like I'd lost my purpose or didn't have a purpose, and I was confused, and there's no clarity, there's no real goals that are tangible, because you don't really have anything to go towards. So there's a structure to that, though, and when people get the structure and they start implementing certain things into their life, they find out the purpose will find them, but they have to start. You're never going to know what your purpose is day one of the Modern Warrior Project, for example. You don't have to turn up on day one and go, right, what's your purpose in life? Because that's why they're there. I don't fucking know what it is.
Exactly, yeah.
So, but we'll unpack it. We'll find out what it is. And so that's just been an ongoing developing thing. That I'm on that path with the guys. You know, I always say to them, you know, I'm walking this path with you.
Yeah.
I'm not there and you're there. I'm there with you, and I'm walking the path as well. I'm just a little bit maybe further ahead than you are, but I understand you. I know where you are now because I've been there. Maybe not in every example. Everyone's got different problems and challenges.
Everyone's going to have a different path as well.
Everyone's got a different path, so it looks different for everybody. But there are some key similarities and principles involved that if you adopt that, in your life, then you'll be somewhere in the right lines. So that's all I'm doing now, which is coaching men in the project, which is taking them on board and, you know, starting them on their path, and it's like a journey of self-mastery, I call it, and that never stops.
No, I'd be really interested to have a look. I was genuinely interested.
It's the community. I always think that what people think they need something different and more. So people go, oh, I want to know how to, I want to get fit. So I want to. Do you do training plans? Do you teach people how to go on diets? I'm like, no. Yeah, you do get all that. Of course you do. But this is just all stuff you got to do. This is all practical stuff. There's many ways you can do that. It's so finding out what works for you and what you can sustain for the rest of your life.
Because it is a lifestyle thing.
It's a lifestyle.
People go, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle.
Diet.
I do struggle with it myself. You know what I mean? You'd notice anyone who follows me, my weight goes
Most
up, my
people
weight comes
do.
down, my weight goes up, my weight comes down. I maintain a relative fitness to my life. Do you know what I mean?
But you're probably somebody you still put a burger in your back, you still get up a fucking hill.
I was up the fan 2 days ago.
So that's never the problem.
Yeah.
But when it comes to other things, there'll be reasons why, and it's getting to the point.
With me, it's because I love pushing stuff, and I'm greedy. Do you know what I mean? I'm greedy eater.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But again, everything comes from what you tell yourself.
Yeah.
Everything comes from the story that's in your head. And this is part of the process I go through with the guys in depth, obviously. It starts off basic, and then the more they're on the programme, we dig deeper, because not everyone's ready to hear certain things right in day one. There's things that I know now, the things that I'm either studying at the moment or things that I've implemented into my life that if you'd have told me about it 10 years ago, I'd have thought you were fucking mad. You know, but there are certain things that I do now because I'm at that point where I feel that that's what I'm ready for. There are things that I read back 10 years ago that is so basic to me now that I would be pointless reading it. It's still important, but I'm past that point where that's going to be the right tool for me or the right thing to absorb. So I'm at a different level now, and everyone's at different stages of the game when they're on that path. But so it's about getting people on the path and truly on the path and keeping them on that and keeping the dial moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And they have to understand themselves more than anything. So this is the main thing that people don't do is understand themselves. People go through a whole fucking life and they're still confused. Who am I?
Well, do you know what? And I think social media doesn't help with that anymore, does it? Because everybody's everybody's looking at what everybody else is doing in the gym and not concentrating on all that sort of stuff. You're always, this comparison thing that you said at the selection, it's very interesting because we've all got it in us to look at everybody else and go, should I be? No, be yourself.
Yeah, be yourself.
I mean, be yourself. Learn yourself. Do your own thing. Do you know what I mean? Because it's your life.
This comes back to ego.
Yeah.
Comes back to the dreaded ego because people do things to impress other people.
Yeah.
Even when they're not happy. Look, I did it. Look, it worked out well for me, but there was an element of me when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, wanted to join the army to prove my dad wrong.
Yeah.
That's not the right reason to join the army. Thankfully, it worked out, but it wasn't the only reason. There was enough interest there to make that a right decision for me, but it was part of my mindset at the time, which
you recognise that now. At the time, you wouldn't have even recognised that, would you?
Not really, no. No, back then I didn't know my
You wouldn't even care.
I didn't know my my hole in the wall back then, But that's what life's all about. It's about self-discovery.
Yeah. So have you got anything else outside of that? You mentioned you might want to try and do some podcasting later,
So I want to start. Well, you said this, a good example. You said about if you're going to do something, you got to do it right.
Yeah.
So I would say that the podcast thing for me would be like this type of quality.
Yeah.
If it was going to be a studio podcast, but we've spoken about other things, doing it in different ways that are maybe a little bit different than the norm.
Everybody will end up finding. You look at all the podcasts. There'll be a way of doing it.
Of course there is.
You know what I mean? And you'll find that way. You know?
But that's something that interests me because I do love fucking talking to people.
No, I like a good old.
But but you're the same, right? Yeah. So you said that earlier. You love it because you're a sociable person.
It's a massively important thing to me now, and I probably didn't realise it 2 or 3 times in my career. Find something you enjoy.
Absolutely.
Find something you enjoy. I tell it to young people now. Find something you enjoy, and you'll never go to work.
Yeah.
And I remember someone telling me years ago, bullshit. Do you know what I mean? I think, no. I found something I enjoy. And I enjoy this now. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not working. This is fun. I'll do this all day.
Exactly. And it just so happens it's what you do for your main sort of thing now. But I mean, I completely agree with that. And I think that's something that a lot of youngsters should learn as well.
Yeah.
That don't just go to a job and think that's what you got to do for the rest of your life. Go outside, step outside the box, find something.
And the other thing we were saying was don't let other people put you off or put you down.
Nah.
Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's your life.
Yeah.
And, I see kids being put, the old you'll never amount to nothing sketch.
Yeah.
You actually probably will if you find out what that thing is for you that works. Do you know what I mean?
One of my former clients once said that he came into contact with a lot of billionaires. His clients were billionaires.
Yeah.
He was a security. He was a guy who used to build these big security vaults and banks and whatnot, jeweler shops, and he dealt with a lot of very wealthy people. And he said billionaires were some of the most miserable fuckers he'd ever came across.
Yeah.
And then you get someone. This is the difference. You see, it's like true happiness has to be coming from within.
Of course, it does,
not from stuff.
Yeah.
Because the new fucking watch or the car, the dopamine wears off very quickly from that, and then it's just you're watching your car.
Yeah.
Then it's the next thing. And so this is why a lot of, in fact, there's something I spoke about recently, actually. There's a famous, and this is not to sort of like say anything wrong with this guy, because I think he's really good at what he does. There's a guy called Alex Hormozy. He's a fitness tycoon, basically. The guy's done exceptionally well for himself. He's built a phenomenal business. He's one of the most famous fitness influencer guys. I'm talking from a business perspective.
Okay, yeah.
He built a massive business online. He built an empire, and he's very influential. Does a lot of stuff for free now, which I really respect. He does a lot of stuff for very little money, so he's contributing a lot to humanity in what he does. But I remember watching one of his videos, and you can see that he's got. I look at him and think he's. You can see the lack of fulfillment that's deep from a depth perspective. So he said something to do with, you build this is a presentation he's doing. You build a business, and then you have these targets, and you got these goals, and then you eventually reach these goals. He said, and then you realize that life is pretty meaningless anyway. Life is meaningless, right? And I thought, and then a little bit later in the same talk, he goes on to say something else like, I forget what it was now, but it kind of contradicts his point. And the message I got from that was that every time he chases something, he gets there and he's still not happy.
Yeah.
And this is from talking to people who are millionaires and successful in business, and I've heard that many, many times where they go, oh, you get to this level and then you're just dissatisfied. So all I wanted to do was become a millionaire, and then you're a millionaire, and then you just worry about losing your millions, and you worry about not being a millionaire anymore. Then you get to 3 million, and then you're now in the multi-millions. So it's always about that ever receding horizon you never really get to. But no one ever stops to go, right, what am I really content with right now? What am I happy with myself? Truly happy with myself. And to get to that point, you have to connect with yourself. So I think this is what people are missing. They're so extrinsically connected to all the shit that's out there, and thinking that it's all about achieving numbers and status. And you get people who live in the fucking Amazon jungle, indigenous people who have got nothing,
mate.
But
I've seen kids in refugee camps smiling, laughing,
happy.
Do you know what I mean?
Genuinely happy,
doing their stuff. Do you know what I mean? No, you're right, 100% right. Well, look, we're all about building communities here at Force Radio. That's what we're trying to do with our podcast, is build a community. I'm chuffed to pieces that you've come on. Yeah. I hope you'll come on again. I'd love to have you back at some stage. I think it was. And I've really enjoyed talking to you.
There's a lot to talk about, mate, but I can probably go on all day. But probably heard enough of me for one day. But yeah, thanks very much for having me on the podcast.
Cheers for coming, and we will definitely
been a pleasure,
again.
Mate.
Cheers, bud.
Awesome, mate.
Nice one.
Cheers, Phil.